I had an idea for a show, but first I needed a table, a backdrop, and a host with a microphone. That's me. I'm Thomas J. Beleza, and this is Let Me Be Round With You, a show where discussions are explored through civil conversation. So I found 4 people I like and decided to see where today's topic goes in hopes we can inspire positive dialogue.
Welcome to an episode of Let Me Be Around With You, a program set as a roundtable discussion. Today's episode is focused on when loving your animal goes too far. I'm Thomas J. Beleza, and I'll be your moderator for this exchange. Today, I'm joined with this lovely group of people. And let's hear a little bit about who each other is. Cameron Ring, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. My name's Cameron Ring. It's a perfect episode for me because my family rescues horses. A lot of them are Tennessee Walkers, which are abused. And so that's what I do on my spare time when I'm not trying to be an actor and producer and small business owner. And before I got into this, I was in the Army National Guard. And actually, I had guarded the inauguration in 2012. And that was quite an experience. I got to see that up close and personal. And then I worked on Capitol Hill and said, I don't want this life. I want to be an actor and be free. And so I ran away to New York, and the rest is history.
All right. We know we won't get any horsing around from Cameron today. And thank you for that short introduction. Let's jump it right to Tammy Hatton. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, so I'm Tammy. For this episode, I actually do have a dog. I've had a dog, for the last 20 years. So that's pretty awesome. I'm just the average Joe girl. I live in Utah, so nothing real special. I got a couple of kids, a 20-year-old girl, 17-year-old boy. I just, living the dream, being a mom.
And a dream it is. And by the way, I'm glad you have a dog because we are talking about it, so you might be able to give a perspective. Cameron actually has a large dog. They're known as horses, which is pretty exciting. All right, let's hear from Mr. John Saponaro, everybody. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm John. I'm a stand-up comic. I'm an actor, a voiceover artist, do a whole bunch of stuff. Originally from Brooklyn, New York, although now I've traded in the snow and the terrible weather for the much sunnier pastures of Los Angeles, California. I don't currently have dogs, but I've had dogs my whole life. And I hope we're not going to touch too much on cats because I'm allergic to them and I don't want to be anywhere near them, not even virtually.
That's true. John is allergic to cats. I've never seen him date a woman. All right, so let's hear from the most beautiful woman I've ever met on, we met on OkCupid, I forget. Ellen Garris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, it was Match.com. So I am a stand-up comedian. Work is just rolling in. Actress, sort of. I have a podcast, Kara's Comedy Corner, which is now on twice a week. One is just me ranting, which is the thoughts in my head. Sometimes I have them. And the other is usually a guest and a writer, producer, and I just wrote a children's book. So this is going to completely balance everything out for me. I wrote a children's book about being a godparent. It's an illustrated book, so it's available on Amazon, $12.95. I had a whole career as an accountant before that, but that's a whole nother thing. You'll have to come and see me at a show, and I'll talk about that if you're interested.
Now, as we all know, accountant's job is to do what accountants do, where accountants do what they do. If anyone watches OnlyFans. All right, so moving forward, let's get into the position of this episode. We're asking questions to understand something very specific. When loving your animal goes too far. Now, as the show is designed, we as a show, as an episode, must present our position, and then we dissect it by asking our guests a few questions here and there. Now, this is there is such thing as having a strong love for animals in the world. We all love animals, right? Some of us, especially the ones that eat the animals. Either you're protecting them from meat eaters as pro-vegan, or you love eating meat, but owning those furry little animal monsters is just the joy of our lives. Who am I kidding? I own a dog. I love love dogs. My dog is huge. He's like a human. He's like 300 pounds. It's insane. It's actually my brother I'm talking about. But cats, ducks, you name it, I love it. Animals, if I could pet it, I'm going to hug it. Okay, maybe not lizards, alligators, or those weird little, what do you call those weird looking living belts? Oh, snakes. Yeah, I don't like snakes. You can throw the snakes out. But how much love is too much love? Today, we're going to talk about when loving your animal goes too far, and we want to explore the reality of that statement. Some of us love our animals. Some people love their animals. And even weirder, some are in love with their animals, and that's why they make love to their animals. Our position today is how far is too far when it comes to loving our own animals or animals in general. So to present question one, we're representing the topic. The position is overspending on an animal. So let me present that position of the question. Give a little background onto it, so everyone pretty much listen, because you don't know who's going to be called on. So it's the fun of the show. It's sporadic. Are we obsessed with our pets? You've probably heard urban legends about the elderly lady who has dozens of cats, the guy who collects snakes and never leaves his house, or someone who spends thousands on clothes for their pet. When Kim, 35 of Utah, spent $10,000 on a treatment for their cherished family member, it wasn't for her spouse, sibling, or a parent. It was for Wilson, her beloved pug. Some people believe this sounds like an obsession that could be unhealthy for the person and pet alike, but many others say mind your own business. As long as there's no harm or neglect happening to them or the animal, or even their budget, allow these people to go the great lengths for their pets. It's completely rational when it comes to caring and creating good behaviors. Now, taking care of your animal for $10,000 to make sure they don't die, that's one thing. But be real. It's an animal, right? Spending high amounts of money for health reasons are one thing, as we stated. But some people go to extremes, spoiling their pets, wanting them to feel special and pampering them any chance they get. According to the U.S. News, the money we spend on pets stays consistent regardless of what the economy may do. In fact, during really tough recession years, pet spending tends to increase. Nationwide, we spend nearly $56 billion each year on pets. Statistics indicate that the average household spends anywhere from $500 to $1,500 on pets annually. Statistics indicate that the average household spends that $500 to $1,500 on pets for food, trinkets, toys, health, wealth, and of course, clothing. Clothing is on that list. There are people who consider their animals family members, not just pets. Certainly we care about our animals more than we care about random humans, of course. Who likes a stranger, am I right? Contrary to the old attitudes of simply leaving a dog tied outside, researchers in the wild have learned that animals are capable of emotions like humans, including empathy. And as they say, scientists say, I agree. Cameron, Mr. Cameron Ring. The truth is, this is for you, buddy. The truth is, we love spoiling those we love. Is that behavior really wrong? That's not the position. In this context, there is a vast difference between spending that extra loving money to keep our family members and house pets healthy, happy, or fed, compared to spending money well over a person's budgetary threshold that either places them near or over into the poverty line or forces them to live paycheck to paycheck. My question to you, Cameron, is where is the line between obsession and devotion when it comes to loving one's pet? Go.
All right. Well, the Bible has an answer for this. I just have to put this in there because I looked it up. The Bible.
And thank you, Cameron, for the. No, all right, just kidding.
I had to look it up. I'll get to your question, but I looked this up. The Bible has it in there that if you lie with an animal, you'll be put to death. And so that would be the Bible's answer. But my question is, how many people are sleeping with animals before you feel the need to institute the death penalty to stop it? Which is just the first thing that went to my mind.
That's fine. Let me stop you there. Let me play a little devil's advocate. The idea is that we answer the question given, though.
Yeah.
So the context, the context of the question is ultimately, we're overspending on animals. So I'll repeat the question just in case it just, sometimes I talk so fast that even I forget it. Where is the line between, and by the way, I don't know if you're defending yourself before we get to that question.
Oh, no.
It's like a precursor, like sleeping with animals, put to death.
I'm like you, Thomas. I just kind of go off.
Oh, listen, last time I did that, I went to jail for 2 days. So where is the line between obsession and devotion when it comes to loving one's animal pertaining to spending money? Go ahead.
Well, if you're talking about spending money, I don't equate how much you spend to how much you love. So it's the answer, like if you're going to go to the point where you're living paycheck to paycheck, I don't think that's love, because you're putting that animal in harm. If you lose your job or something, that animal could be harmed. So when you're equating money to love, I think it's kind of not the right question. I would say, especially my experience with special needs animals, love is equated to how much time you spend to them, how much, if you have a traumatized animal with PTSD, how much patience you have with it, and whether it can, sometimes they can get aggressive or get mean, and whether you still have the love and fortitude to keep pushing. And I've seen incredible results with dogs too. I had a dog that I worked with that was into the pound 4 separate times. People couldn't handle her. And I took her, actually, my friend just wanted me to work with her and see what I could find. And I spent the time to be around her, and she would get aggressive around other dogs. That was the big issue, like ferociously aggressive. And after spending time with her and paying attention, I realized it wasn't actually aggression. It was almost a panic, like in a weird excitement way. And so after finally figuring this out, I worked with her to equate when dogs walk by or whatever, not to equate it, because she was in her mind equating it with panic. I'm not 100% sure, but it wasn't like a fearful panic. It was a excitement panic. And I spent time with her, training her to like replace that panic with happiness. So she has a little place near her butt where she likes to be scratched. And if a dog walked by, I'd scratch in it, and it would take her into this calming state. And after a while, she started equating dogs with calming. And within a week, I was able to take her into a Petco and no problems. So that's love to me. If I had spent a ton of money on her, pampering her, and I don't know, buying whatever people do, I don't really know. I don't think that's love, but I think it's a replacement for love. I think it's something that people do when they maybe think they're loving, or I don't know, but my answer is I don't equate money with love. But I would say if you spend so much money to where you're broke, you're harmful. I don't care how much you think you love that pet, you don't, because you put it in a bad situation.
All right, so to clarify what you're answering, you're saying that the line between obsession and devotion is once it starts affecting your budgetary survival, that becomes an obsession. Okay, that's good. So now we understand. That's a good position. All right, so moving on to question number 2. I don't have any devil's advocate. I do have questions about the Bible statement and jumping onto that, but we'll get to that.
I knew you'd love it. I had to bring it up.
You jumped right to it. Oh, all right. Let's go to John. John Saponaro, what do you got to add?
Well, I think Cameron makes a good point. You kind of really capped off nicely by saying, once it gets in your own way of sustaining your own life or your family's life, that's a problem. But I do think it can go even further than that with regards to spending too much money. Very famously in New York, there was Leona Helmsley, who was a rich Queens socialite. She had a ton of money, and she had this dog that she loved. When she died in 2007, she left $12 million to her dog, which is an absurd thing to do conceptually. Like, you can do anything else with that money. You can leave it to a charity. You can leave it. She didn't have a ton of family. She didn't get along with the family she did have. It was one of those things. But, eventually a judge had to knock that inheritance down to $2 million, which is still, when we're talking about money, you're leaving that money to an animal where, it could be as simple as just making sure the animal is taken care of, making sure, that the dog winds up in good hands for the rest of the dog's life. But the dog doesn't need $2 million, $12 million, $250,000. It's a dog. And I love dogs, but like, even though she had the means, whether in life or in death, it's an irresponsible choice to leave that amount of money to an animal.
That's what I told my divorce lawyer when my ex-wife was like, I need $2 million. I'm like, does she really need $2 million? Just kidding. I didn't go to a lawyer. It's funny you bring up a generational wealth to dogs, because that's literally the next topic. So let me tell you, we did notice, I'm going to take out what John just said because that is in my notes, but it is insane how much people leave to their animals. However, it's not our position to say it's insane or not insane. So let's really explore the reasoning behind generational wealth. Once a novelty, it's now become expected for the unimaginable wealth to leave millions, or the unimaginable wealthy, to leave millions to their surviving pets to ensure there's no disruption in their spa treatments and fancy feasts. Like the old saying goes, you can't choose your family, but if you're an animal, your family can sure as heck choose you, which is probably why many of the world's mega rich have chosen to bequeath more than their inheritance to their loyal pets, than their own offspring, which is funny. Yeah, I gotta kill my parents' dog. All right, anyway, Michael Jackson left $2 million to his chimpanzee, Bubbles. The child is widow. There was a childish widow of an Italian real estate investor, Maria Assonuta, left $13 million to her 4-year-old stray cat, Tommaso. Thanks, I didn't see a penny of that. An extremely high inheritance left to Gunther III in 1992 from owner Carletta Libanasitin was $80 million. Now, John mentioned the 12 million, and then they brought it down to 2 million. $80 million. But can a person legally leave money to an animal? Technically, no. By law, a person cannot will their property to an animal because that animal is considered property. They would instead have to include a provision in their will that sets aside a certain amount of money for the care of that pet. While legal, this isn't typically recommended by lawyers, as there's no real oversight to make sure whoever is taking care of the animal would use the funds exclusively for animals and their benefit. There is a better solution. A pet trust. That's right, there are such things known as pet trusts. This offers a system of checks and balances that ensures the pet's needs will be addressed. A caretaker could, in theory, buy a replacement pet if the original one dies. So they could continue to receive whatever financial benefits were allotted in exchange for taking care of this animal. Tammy, this is for you. Nothing says love like $80 million inheritance. The idea might be in favor of, it's their money. They can do whatever they want with it, as my Brooklyn accent comes out. But we want to explore the reasoning of how much is too much to give an animal. And yes, although world-famous talk show host Oprah Winfrey is alive and well, she has set up a trust fund to care for her many beloved dogs should they outlive her. The trust is said to be worth about $30 million, which would make her pooches continue to live very content lives. My question to you, Tammy, is there a too much, quote unquote, when it comes to an inheritance for a family pet? More so, if there are family members or even society as a whole could benefit from this money, shouldn't there be some say in the exchange of wealth in a person's will, suggesting there might possibly be mental illness going on for this individual? Go.
I mean, I think there should be a limit. I don't know. I mean, like you were saying, it's your money. You can do what you want with it. However, I mean, personally, I mean, I've had dogs. I pamper. I guess I don't pamper them, but I mean, I couldn't leave an excessive amount of money. And to me, an excessive amount of money is like $1,000. Just kidding, but for real. So when you hear $80 million left for an animal, and there's other family members involved, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could go. I mean, there's probably different reasons why. I mean, it could be, well, yeah, I hate my family, and this is the slap in your face, and my dog gets the 80 mil. However, I mean, maybe your pet is your child. If that's, I mean, that might be the only child you have. So I understand them wanting to, keep, or, give an amount of money so that after you're gone, it's taken care of. 80 million. I'm sorry, your dog's not going to be using $80 million for the next 7 years it's alive. I don't know. It depends on the breed. But yeah, I think there is a limit. I really do. I really don't think it should be okay to leave a dog $80 million when, like, it was said before, charities. I mean, there's things out there that you could give it to. I mean, if you want to give your dog $1 million, that's excessive to me. And it's give the 79 million to something that you're passionate in, maybe rescuing the animals or, something like that. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. However, I'm going to have to say I don't agree with you, because I feel like if I do agree with you, I think I wasted money on several different dog outfits that I purchased to try to bequeath a owner who is wealthy. There's cougar chasing, but I honestly, I'm not into older women anymore because I am old. So, if I'm going after an 80-year-old, I just rather show up to the dementia and be like, woo! And they're just like, hey, a new stray dog, here's $80 million. But other than that, I agree wholeheartely with you, Tammy. I just, honestly, I think my medicine's wearing out. No, thank you for that answer. That was definitely insightful. Moving on to question number 3, we're going to be talking about dressing animals up and a little bit of what Tammy says. So it's nice that a lot of these answers are leading to the next question about, you mentioned something ultimately about, the animal being your child. So we'll be exploring that in this next section. Dressing animals up. It wasn't too long ago that dressing up your pet was a practice reserved for the rich and famous, like Paris Hilton. Animal lovers go to great lengths for a few adorable photos of their pets. In 2012, a staggering 15.11 billion, up from 14.71 billion in 2016, was spent on pet clothes, collars, and leashes. Is dressing our animals up really? Is it worth that expense? Well, let's see. Does it affect the animal? According to Dr. Danielle Bernal, a veteran with wellness and natural pet food, discussing if it is harmful depends on the animal. Your pet better, quote unquote, your pet, you know your pet better than anyone else. So if you think they would seem stressed or uncomfortable wearing something on their head, paws, or midsection, reconsider having them in a costume. That makes sense. Dogs and cats are designed to be naked, though. They prefer it, as per studies. If a pet has no clear objections for an occasional hat or scarf, then there's potentially no harm. People have different reasons for dressing up their pets. Some do it so their pet isn't left out. Oh my God. Some so they get positive reactions on social media. Go social media. Others simply just think their pet looks cute and enjoy the sense of occasion. Throw him in a costume. Oh, look at my dog. He looks like Baby Yoda. I know he's biting at the. He likes it. He likes to chew on the ear. No, he's not trying to get out of it. He's just a stupid. Stop it, dog. I spent a lot of money on that ridiculous Anyway, anthropomorphism, the attribution of human characteristics or behavior, adding the attribution of human characteristics or behavior to a god, animal, or object. So this is when you change your animal and you're like, he's a human. He's a human. Treating our pets like humans can lead to doggy ADD. Oh, look, a squirrel. Cameron actually brought this up earlier when he was talking about spending too much, what love is, and retraining the dog with butt love. By the way, butt play is always a training tool. I'll contest that. Thank you, John, for that lesson. But treating our pets like humans can lead to doggy ADD and anxiety. To explore this thought, we should first mention the phenomenon behind treating pets as humans. There is indeed a rise of pet parents, since oddly enough, kids per household have declined over the years. It isn't uncommon to find an empty nester replacing a grown two-legged child with a now four-legged fur baby. 83% of pet owners call themselves mommy or daddy to their pets, which definitely gets confusing when your partner hears you scream over, "Hey, daddy, it's time." Now, you have to truly understand an animal's emotion. In this case, a dog. The most chronic version of treating your dog like a human being, owners can improve their relationship with their dog if you make an effort to understand their unique emotional makeup. Cameron had mentioned something about this earlier. Throwing your dog a new moon party or giving them a holiday stocking with treats is not a heinous dog behavioral crime. It's nice and cute. When we see our dog in any other state besides calm and submissive, and we give them petting while confirming it's okay, it's comforting for us, but we're reinforcing the state of mind for that dog. That's right. We are ultimately training them for the misbehaving action. So when they lay on our bed and we pet them, it means that they're a part of the pack, right? Because often we have discovered that their dogs have separation anxiety because of this behavior. We're building a sense of they're part of the pack. So if you constantly coddle your dog and fail to boost his confidence with rules, boundaries, and positive reinforcement training, your dog may be unable to relax when alone. Given dogs mixed leadership singles throws him or her off balance, confuses his psyche, and ignites a canine imbalance, which ultimately is saying in these studies that the more we treat our dogs like humans, the more confusing it is for them to know their place. John, Mr. Saponaro, we love our animals, and at times, our compassion for them tricks us into seeing them as people. They jump on the bed, lay on the couch, and even want to be a part of everything. After all, they are pack animals. Is there a limit? No, this ain't the question yet. Is there a limit to the way we give our pets a chance to feel a part of the family? Overall, the energy we have for showing love can be boundless at times. My question to you, sir, is who's to say where the line should be drawn when it comes to treating our pets like family or children? Is it truly a bad thing to make a pet feel like they are included in the family?
First of all, I think I'm to say where the line is, because there's a lot of absurdity that happens. I am all about treating an animal as if they are part of the family. You keep using the example of dogs. The companionship is terrific, and allowing the dog to feel included. I mean, you see the amount of love that a dog has to give to its owners, I think should be reciprocated. So there are certain things. I know some people don't like the dogs on the bed. Some people with a lot of space don't even like their dogs in the house or in certain areas of the house. I'm willing to say, hey, if you want your dog to sleep in the bed with you, that's fine. If you're comfortable and the dog's comfortable, everything's all good. Where the line really is very clear for me is when it gets to the absurd. And I know you can say that absurdity is subjective. I don't think it is. I think when you start treating the animal in a way that goes beyond what the animal's normal behavior is. Animals, you mentioned it before with clothes and dressing up. Animals don't wear clothes. They don't have a need for clothes. You shouldn't be spending money on giving your dog an adorable outfit. Most likely the dog doesn't like it. You're wasting your money. It's an absurd thing all the way around. For me, the biggest one is when and you see this a lot, here in LA, you see it a lot in New York too. Sometimes people will put their dogs, take their dogs for walks in strollers or something comparable, like their children. Dogs want the exercise. Dogs want to walk. This is not a case of, it might be slippery out, so I'm going to pick the dog up rather than have the dog walk down the stairs. I don't want to have the dog get hurt. I don't want to have the dog accidentally pull me down the stairs and I get hurt. This is not for the dog's safety. This is for your own. So I think that's really the line. I think I've kind of stumbled upon it as I was ranting. I think the line of demarcation is when it's for your own benefit and not for the animal's benefit. You might want the dog in the bed with you. That might be your benefit. But also, if the dog's comfortable and the dog's happy, there's a mutual benefit there. When you start talking about, I'm going to buy shoes for my dog and I'm going to buy a hat and a Halloween costume, that's absurd. The dog's a dog. Let the dog be a dog.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And as long as you as the master dictate the line of respect, it definitely makes sense. So yeah, that was a great articulate question. I appreciate that, John. Thank you for your interpretation of man's best friend. Now, the reason we mentioned dogs mostly is, I grew up with dogs. I've also owned cats. However, you can't talk to a cat. They just look at you like you realize I don't care, right? And the dog is like, what's next? You stop talking. What else can we talk about? So that's why I always mention the dog. But moving on to the next question. Question number 4, and this one's obviously going to go to the lovely Ellen Karras. So definitely pay attention, Ellen. I know she's busy on responding to my Match.com messages, but that's a callback. If anyone's in comedy, that's what it is. Callback 101. Another callback is I wish women would call me back. What's the deal? John, tell me your secret. Anyway, so question number 4 is focused around dog shows, okay? Which is a nice segue from the dating sites. My dog is beautiful. I will always appreciate the value of my dog. But let's get them into the Westminster dog show, right? Why? Because the reward money, it's always about the reward money, but is that about the dog or is that about your greed and need, right? This does not stop contestants from spending up to $250,000 on these dogs for the dog show. The dog that wins Best in Show is probably a very good boy or girl, but that does not mean it earns any money. The Best in Show does typically allow you to go on to compete in other lucrative dog shows later in the year, including the AKC National Championship, which awards you about $50,000 to the champion. However, tragedy struck the competition when 8 dogs were poisoned in 1895. First of all, 1895, the dog show's been going on for a couple of days, huh? The eight toy dogs were a variation of dogs, were all poisoned the morning before the competition, according to the New York Times. All 8 dogs died. Their deaths made the front page of the Times, whose headline read, 8 dogs, pets killed by poison. Jealousy, believe the motivation. Jealousy was the motivation. Another incident was 2 PETA members stormed the stage at Madison Square Garden during one of the dog shows in 2010. Their hope was Dana Sylvester and Hope Round walked into the Best in Show ring shortly before the winner was crowned, holding up signs that read, "Mutts rule," and "Breeders killed sheltered dogs," and they killed their chances. According to the Associated Press, they were quickly taken off the stage by multiple security guards. Police told AP that Sylvester and Round were charged with criminal trespassing. Thank God. In 2012, the Westminster Pet Show was dumped. They dumped its longtime sponsor, Pedigree, the popular dog food brand, after its commercial featured very sad shelter dogs. We told them that they can't ignore us. We want people to think of the Kennel Club dog show as a celebration of dogs in our lives, and they felt that the ad was diminishing them. Pedigree told the Times that one year it had received $500,000 in donations after its advertisement aired during the show. So it ultimately ended up helping for dogs that were in shelters, and then they ended up getting dropped. So Ellen, this is for you. We have a need, want, or desire to show off the beautiful animals in our lives, especially for $50,000. When the competition is available for us to explore these desires, the only place to go are these dog shows. Placing those animals into pageants as we would young children, usually young girls. It's a way to make good money, breed those puppies, and sell them to the highest bidder. My question to you is, are these shows considered above and beyond for dogs, even cat shows, to the point where animals are being treated outside of their comfort zone?
Well, thank you for the question, Thomas. So I like dogs. I think they're great. I'm definitely not one of the over-the-top people. I don't watch the dog show, but it does come after the Westminster dog show does come after the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So I do like to watch. I will watch like the first minute or two right after Santa Claus. But it's very popular. And, there's been a lot of talk about people spending money and this and that. I mean, listen, you can do whatever you want with your money. I mean, that's hopefully the beauty about America still, is that you can spend your money the way that you want. People spend their money on much worse things than dog outfits. But there is a passion for people wanting to put their dogs in these shows. As a matter of fact, I had a friend whose neighbor did do that. She was very into training her dog. She trained other dogs. These people are generally in the dog business somehow, some way, whether it's breeding or training. Training, by the way, is huge. And as you know, I live in Manhattan. It's incredible how most of us live in apartments and there are so many dogs. And dog walking is a huge, huge moneymaker here. So, it all sort of one thing feeds into the other. I had friends that had hired trainers for their dogs. And you know what? Those shows are televised on cable, on NBC. So there's obviously an audience for it, or else they wouldn't put it on. Advertisers would not pay for the time. And it's like everything else. It's a revenue stream. It's a huge, huge revenue stream. So as long as they're treating the dogs well, which I would imagine that they would be, then it's fine. It's entertainment. And honestly, some of these dogs are like even smarter than humans. So kudos to the dogs.
Yeah, as far as the training go, I have been in an emotional abusive relationship, so I know how much training there is out there. All right, great answer though, and I completely, I see what you're saying. Ultimately, not only are the shows training the dogs to behave properly, and because dogs do love being trained. They love having tests. They love feeling connected to their owners through this training. So, and if it's been going on for this long and no one has said the animals are being butchered to do it. But, again, there are tragedies and stuff that happen to all events. And it's just sad to see that there are some crazy competitors out there that would poison dogs for competition. Thank you for that answer, Ellen. I appreciate that. Moving on to the final question. This subject, we're going to break down the position of making love to animals, Cameron. Not that I'm assuming you are, since you were very passionate before we even started the show. So I'm sure you have something to say about this. However, we already know what it is. Christ be our Lord. But that's what my mom makes me do at dinner, by the way. That is a true thing. She goes, all right, everyone say Christ be our Lord. And I was like, then my dad's like, but I'm Catholic. Anyway, let's keep going. John's bored. All right. Bestiality is much more common than we mostly think. Did you know that it is entirely legal for a man or a woman in Texas, of all places, to walk into a pet store, buy a dog, and have sex with it in the confines of their comfortable home? In the 1940s, famed sexual researcher Alfred Kinsey estimated that 8% of men and 3.6% of women had engaged in some sort of bestiality. In a later study done in 1974 by Morton M. Hunt, put the result at 4.9 men, 1.9 women. People having sex with horses is on the rise in Switzerland. That's right. More Swiss people, of course, are having sex with horses. Hopefully they're not named Mr. Ed, of course. According to a sickening new report, there were 105 cases in 2014, 10% of which involved people having sex with them. The other, they were just casual petting. Anyway, the rate is relatively elevated compared with other types of animals, which, that's great. A legal expert with the group told reporters, the local reported there are an estimated 110,000 horses living on 18,000 Swiss farms. Experts estimate that 10,000 people in Switzerland are definitely enjoying their horses. Did you know that in the United States, sex with horses is legal in all 50 states, and in the District of Columbia, both horses and donkeys are well known for engaging in sex with horses throughout this county. People have sex with horses and donkeys, and have been doing so ever since these animals were reintroduced to the New World back in the Columbian times. Fun fact, in 2 hours of testimony, it was learned that a hidden network of animal sex offenders who communicated in online chat rooms, according to the HSUS, at any given time, 900 to 1,000 bestiality networks are communicating, exchanging tips, and trading animals. They call themselves zoos, which is insane. And one group has over 1 million members. That's pretty intense. So that leaves me to you all. I give it to the table. There is loving an animal, and then there is making love to an animal. I could be wrong. It might just be sex, emotional sex with an animal. However, my question to the table is, what would someone get out of having sex with an animal when it comes to really going to the next level to show one's desire for love and compassion for their pet? And is it bad to have sex with your animals if it's legal? I'm going to start with Cameron. Go.
So, is it bad to have sex with your animal? Yes. For a lot of reasons, besides the obvious that it's an animal. I never felt I would have to explain this, but why would you just assume the animal wants it? if ignoring the obvious about how it's bad, there's no way that the animal can consent. So that, to me, and then what was the other thing? Is it a show of love or a show of passion? What was the first question?
The other part was, what would someone get out of having sex with an animal when it comes to really going to the next level? What would you get out of it?
What
would you get out of it?
No, I guess what you normally get out of sex, pleasure, and I guess for some reason that pleasure comes from, well, I guess in Switzerland, a lot of people horses. So I don't know beyond that what you could possibly get out of it, other than just a really weird.
We clearly got him a little nervous about the subject. He has escaped the room. What was that? Whoa, sex with animals. That's crazy.
Sorry,
all right.
I'm back.
No, we got it. You got a little verklempt. I get it. But
yeah, panic.
I have me too. I have a devil's advocate question for you, because you bring up animals don't have consent. With that said, how often do you kiss? Not you particularly, but you, the royal you. How often do we just kiss our dog, or hug our cat, or hug our dog, or hug our animal, or ride a horse, or whatever it is? Show physical intimacy or contact. And sex isn't always a consent thing. Like there's the old saying that, when I was younger, I'd have to kiss my grandmother or my relatives, even though I didn't want it. There was no consent, but you had to. So the devil's advocate question is, ultimately, when you say there's no consent, is that for all aspects of touching, or are you giving the consent for what you are comfortable for and not necessarily the animal? Go.
Well, with dogs, yeah, it's an interesting question. But with dogs, they do show it. They come up to you and they lick and they give you like love. If a dog wasn't licking and I didn't think for some reason that it would like me in its face, I wouldn't do it, because bad things can happen. You could get bit or whatever. And same with horses in terms of showing affection. They don't show affection in the same way dogs do. They obviously don't lick or whatever, but they will nuzzle you. They'll come up and they'll put their nose in your chest, and that's a sign of affection and all that. And so if they're doing that, I would never do it, never go up to a horse, you don't really go up to horses in general, but if you never go up to a horse and like hug or kiss, I don't actually hug horses because they don't like it. So I guess the answer is if they for some reason show that they don't like it, yeah, no, you shouldn't. I've never had a dog that didn't like loving and affection. So actually I have had some, but I've had horses that don't like hugging, and you don't do it. So no, I would say no.
That makes sense. No, I get you. You know, but to the point, you know, again, if a dog comes up to you and kisses you, you're giving the dog consent. But if you go up to kiss the dog and it just takes it,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going on in a dog's head. And also horses, when we ride them, you know, they don't always like to be ridden. You know, I grew up with horses too, and they're sometimes they're like, not today, not today. You go ride Bob over there. And I'm like, Bob hates me. And you're like, so do I. You know? But moving on, Tammy, same question, you know, ultimately, what would someone really get out of having sex with an animal? And is it bad? Is it bad to have sex? These are not my positions or understanding. We're just asking questions. Is it bad to have sex with animals? And what do people really get out of it?
All right. This is a comfortable question. I love it. Is it right? My opinion is absolutely not. I don't think that it is right in any means. I mean, there's a boundary. I mean, that's what all it is. It's a boundary. I mean, you love your animal, but you don't do that. Those that do, I mean, I think there's an issue. That's my opinion, though. What do they get out of it? I honestly don't know. I have never in my life ever thought in that way. So even thinking about it right now is making me want to grab my garbage can and kind of bleh. But yeah, I don't understand. I never will. I don't understand it. Like I said, it could be something with that person. You know, they might, I mean, it could be a mental issue. I don't know. I can't say for that. You know, I can't speak for everybody.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You know, again, we're not in the minds of people that do these things. You know, not to compare them to sociopaths or serial killers, but I would like to. Ultimately, we don't know what their motivations are all the time. Sometimes they might say what it is, but how do we know? You know, what's the truth about that? To John Saponaro or Saponari, I like his name. It's just kind of like Snappa. No, it's Sappa. It's like to be sapped. He's Italian. He's gonna sap you. That's his job, is to knock you out and take your money. But that's another show. John, same question. What would someone get out of having sex with an animal and not having sex like an animal? I know how your brain thinks. Having sex with an animal, and of course, is it bad to have sex with an animal? I'm waiting for one person to just, it's legal, you know. But go ahead.
I don't want to, you know, I know this show is probably more fun if somebody has a dissenting opinion, or at least, you know, kind of veers off a little bit, but I simply cannot. I mean, first of all, I don't know what somebody would get out of it. I know both Tammy and Cameron have said that already, but I cannot be in that state of mind. I do think that it's never acceptable. And I do think that it's fundamentally a form of mental illness. I should also mention that, you know, I think that people should be and are free to express their sexuality in whichever way they see fit. But where I would draw the line, and I think we should all draw the line, is bestiality and pedophilia. I don't think that those are acceptable forms of sexuality. I think those are forms of exploitation, and they are forms ultimately, like I said, of, you know, signs of mental illness.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's just enough mental illness to recommend that they should definitely get some help. You know, maybe a little bit. Speaking of mental illness, one of my favorite minds of the century, Ellen. Same question. You know, what did they get out of having the lovemaking with an animal? And do you feel that it is bad? Is it really bad to have sex with animals?
I'm going to say I think that anybody that does that is a fucking psychopath and should be put in jail, and you're insane, you're sick, you shouldn't be anywhere near humanity. I don't have any empathy. I think it's cruel, it's disgusting, it's gross, it's just, it's sick. It's just sick. You should be off the street. It's just the whole, I can't even talk about it. It makes my stomach turn. Why would you do that? How, what? I don't know. I couldn't put I could never put my head in that place. You need help. And hopefully you'll when you have that, if you have that urge, you'll go get help before you actually do something to an animal, any animal, whatever it is. It's disgusting. Jail. There you go.
So you're saying you agree with it? No, no, that's actually no. I agree if I walked in on somebody making love to my dog and didn't invite me, I would be furious as you were with the cursing. I would just be like, ah! But I do think I think animal bestiality should be under the same category as rape, because as Cameron says, there's no consent, and you're really taking advantage of a creature. I mean, we also eat them, but like, if we're gonna eat them, we might as well at least respect them a little bit. Give them some dignity. Like, hey, I'm gonna clean your pipes and then we're gonna eat you. Like have some sort of respect for the animals, and that's my standpoint. Is be a good human to your fur babies. But I want to throw it out there. Thanks to everybody for being on the show today. I really enjoyed this episode. It was meant to be fun, but we definitely explored something a little chaotic and disturbing about Cameron's interests against the animal. He dropped his phone. We're going to definitely keep that in the episode. That was absolutely by far the funniest moment. But seriously, I appreciate everyone coming on. I love you guys. And if you're interested in seeing who these people are and what they're doing, if there's any available social media or website links, they will be in the description of the video below. And as always, the whole point of Let Me Be Around With You is to give voice to the voiceless, to give voice to opinions and perspectives. And I love that I get to bring on people that I care about, friends, and we get to say things that sometimes we might not really talk about with other people. And that's the point of the conversation that we create here on the show. Let Me Be Around With You. And so that's another episode. I will see you next time on Let Me Be Around With You. I'm Thomas J. Beleza. I'll see you again.
Oh dear.